Hi everyone. I'm here because I have been wanting to do third culture kid videos for a very long time. The ideas have been turning around in my head for months and months, years pretty much. I started a blog as a way to get myself motivated to do videos, but I haven't done any videos specifically about my own experiences as a third culture kid yet. So I wanted to go ahead and do that today. But this video is just gonna be a third culture kid tag response video to a person who posted her own third culture kid tag video almost a year ago. I'm not sure that I'll say her last name right. Nana Kennedy Kofi posted a video. I should probably tell you, my name is Shannon. For my blog, I go by Nshanti. So you can call me Shannon, you can call me Nshanti, doesn't matter. So let's get started with the questions. Question 1. Where are you from? Where am I from? For me to say where is my home, I would probably just tell you my home is wherever I'm living at that time. It's not much of a deal for me to say where I'm from, but I do feel a very strong need to explain my past. So I really need to tell you, oh, I'm from Texas, as in I'm living here now in Texas, but I didn't always live here. Because even if I just tell someone, yeah, I'm from Texas, then it usually comes out very quickly that I haven't been living here my whole life. How many languages do you speak? Question 2. Fluently? 1. I speak English fluently. The number of languages I have studied in my lifetime, that's about 7. German was my first language, and then I learned English. Then in Japan, we actually had to study Japanese in class, in school. Turkish, while I lived in Turkey because of school requirements. French, for a while French was my strongest foreign language, I would say. Spanish, just because living in the States I come across Spanish so often. Like, you go to the grocery store and the signs are in English and Spanish. And so why not, just pick it up. I learned Korean, and that's currently my strongest foreign language. Okay, and the next question. Question 3. How many passports do you have, and what nationality are they? Now, I know this is a legitimate question for many third culture kids, because many of them do have multiple passports, but I don't feel like I'm very special in that regard. I just have one US passport. Let's see, the next question. How many countries have you lived in? I've lived in Germany, the US, Japan, Turkey, and Korea. So that's 5 countries. The next question is, how are you treated when you go back to the country you are from or the country you live in? So for me, that would be the US. I've had different experiences depending on how I returned. So when I was young and my family and I lived mostly in other countries, my dad and I would always take summer vacation trips back to the US. During those times, I would meet with my, cousins. I would kind of fit in the way that a child fits in naturally. Like, children seem to just walk up to other children and be like, hey, let's play. Yeah, so I didn't really have that much of a problem interacting with my cousins. There were a few times where I might be questioned for not knowing a song or something, but I mean, just being in the country, and especially being in a car all day and just, having nothing to do but listen to the radio, I quickly picked up on what was happening at that time. I also was a huge couch potato when I was young, so I watched a ton of TV. I feel like despite having moved so much, I really didn't miss out on a lot of television and things like that. I watched a lot of TV when I was little. Now, as I got older, Like when my family and I finally officially moved back to the US, we weren't planning on leaving the country anymore. I did have a hard time. I moved schools in ninth grade, and at my school, it was, I want to say, 95% African American, and that was a huge culture shock for me because prior to that, I had been surrounded by people of multi ethnicities, multicultures, so I had no idea what to do with myself as far as um, how to interact. I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't act like them at all. I just didn't have the skills, the social skills, the cultural skills to interact with my own, let's say, ethnicity. Even though I blend in on the outside with them, once they talk to me, they find out very quickly that I'm completely unusual. So yeah, that was a huge culture shock for me. Once you pretty much go off to college, you're considered an adult in the U.S. and you're kind of left to do your own things. And I decided to go to Korea. Like I lived in San Antonio, Texas, and then when I went to Korea for a year and I came back, um, San Antonio felt kind of strange and different. It was my first time, I think, coming back to people that I had known before. So usually when I moved, it was I'm not going to see these people again. Or if I do, it'll be, during vacation for a week or two, and, I'll just have to do some sort of small talk and have some new experiences, and then I'll be on my way again. So when I went to Korea and I came back, that was my first time experiencing that kind of thing. Like the people in your community that you left behind have changed and also not changed. They've grown up in a different direction from you. I went to Korea again a second time and stayed there a little longer. I came back this year actually. So I've gone back to San Antonio several times, but I'm actually living in a different city now in Texas, and it's still kind of the same. Like whenever I go to visit San Antonio, it's this really odd feeling of like not knowing where I fit in, or if I even fit in, or other people having moved on and done things in their lives and there not being anything there for me, so to say. Like, not even my family is there anymore. But I still have some friends who are there, friends that I've known since I first moved to San Antonio, and I see them occasionally, and um, it's still a learning process for me to understand, that I've had relationships with them for such a long period of time. I'm still getting used to that. I don't think I really answered that last question. How was I treated? Mm, I've never been treated badly by family or friends for leaving and coming back. I have been looked at differently. They expect me to be different when they come back. And then when something happens, something I say or something I do proves that point to them, then they go, aha, yeah, I knew it's because you've been gone and you're all like, yeah, it's kind of like teasing more than actually making fun of me, but I've never received any bad judgment or criticism for that. Okay, moving along. What are some of the adaptations you've made moving from culture to culture? I don't know if this is part of my personality or if it's part of being a third culture kid. I'm going to say that's a little bit of both, but especially because of the kind of person that I've grown up to become. I'm quite introverted. I've learned to become more outgoing and extroverted, but I still have the introversion that defines my actions towards other people. So, because of moving so much, I I struggle very hard to fit in. This is a really hard question for me to answer, actually. I change a lot depending on where I go. I noticed that depending on who I'm around, I do my best to fit into that circumstance. And I guess it's the chameleon part of, the third culture kid coming out, where you're trying to blend in. I try to blend in so as not to offend. I also try to be myself, but for example, when I moved to Korea, I already knew a lot about Asian culture, from living in Japan. I expected to act respectful to, like more respectful than usual to elders, to be kind and patient and, kind of quiet and polite rather than being loud and outgoing the way I need to be in the US. So when I moved to Korea, I was already in this mindset that I'm going to change and become that to make others around me feel more comfortable. And then when I ran into Korean people who were like really afraid to even speak to foreigners, then that just escalated my need to change, to make them feel comfortable so that I could make friends, so that, I could, if they know that I'm okay to talk to, then slowly I can open up and, change into a person that I'm most comfortable being. Because, sometimes I don't want to be really, really quiet. Occasionally, I do want to act silly and be a little bit loud. I do change a lot. I know when I moved from Turkey to Washington, D.C., I, I kind of, I guess I shut down a lot of things about me. Like my internationalness. That's not a word. The fact that before moving to DC, it was okay to have lived in so many cultures and to show that and to show what you have learned from other cultures. But when I moved to DC, that became something that I wasn't able to express easily. I had to only share that kind of information with people who were really interested in hearing that. I took a lot of care and time in selecting friends, just so I could see what I had in common with them, uh, because you can't really hide your past so easily, especially when that's really who you are. So if people are gonna find out about my lifestyle anyways, I want them to be a little accepting of it. Um, if it's gonna be something difficult for them to understand, then I also don't want to. I guess I don't want to deal with that. That's kind of mean, to say that, but I I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, so I'd rather just not deal with them. um, if they're accepting of me, then I will open up to them, because it's really hard for me to express all that I've been through in my life without, worrying that I will push someone away. Yeah. That was difficult for me to answer, so I'm going to move right along. And the next question is, do you have any interesting culture shock stories? Ha 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 ha. Yeah. And I didn't have significant culture shock stories until I got much older. I've already mentioned, living in DC, um, going to a school that was predominantly African American, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to fit in. There was no way I was going to be able to blend in with the students there. Like, that was the situation where I really struggled to be myself. When I moved to Korea the first time, um, during our teacher's orientation, they kept stressing the fact that, a lot of, people in Korea haven't had much interaction with foreigners, especially the first program I joined. The teachers would be sent into rural areas, so unless you lived in the major cities or unless you had some experience, with the international world, had done some traveling, you probably had never come across any other foreigners as a Korean person. And I had several instances where just my nationality was constantly taken away from me, the identity of being an American, when there are still a lot of people in this world who consider an American to just be like blonde hair, blue eyes, and Caucasian. Um, and that's just because they haven't had the experience to meet different people from that part of the world. I made a friend who was Caucasian. She's from New Zealand. Um, and we had a Korean friend who invited us to her hometown for one of the festivals that they were having. I think it was the Cherry Blossom Festival, I'm not sure. We were walking around the festival site, and one of the Korean friend's students had, she saw us and she ran over and she's like, "Hey, teachers!" And then, my Korean friend and the student were talking, and then my Korean friend said, she pointed to us and she's like, "So, can you guess where they're from? You should ask them, practice the English that you've been learning in school." And so, um, before the student decided to ask, "Where are you from?" she decided to guess where we were from. And so, I, the student was like, "Okay, well, she," pointing to me, "is from Africa, and then the other girl is from America." And so, it was, I'm not really mad at the child. It's just that it was funny at first, but later on, during the time that I was there, I ran into that situation very, very often. Well, I am of African descent, of course. um, but occasionally there might be someone who will question, like, it's not that they ask, or if they ask, "Are you African? Are you from Africa?" Then I will say, "No, I'm American." And then there might be that one person who doesn't believe me when I say that I'm American. And so, like, having someone tell you where you're from is a bit jarring. And, for my friend from New Zealand, no one ever really guessed that she was from New Zealand. And I, I went on to meet several teachers from South Africa who were Caucasian, and they're, you know, they would go into the classrooms and teach their kids about, the kinds of people who live in South Africa, and, show them their family pictures and friends pictures and stuff. And then the students would still tend to forget, like, that they are from South Africa just based on looks. So that was something, like, I think it's a little deeper than just telling someone. I think they have to experience it to believe it. A last example is that I had a friend who is Australian. Her nationality is Australian. She's half Samoan, half okay, I'm gonna forget the other half. um let's say her one of her parents is from Hong Kong. Okay, so she has a very Asian look to her, and when she goes to Korea, people just expect that she's Korean. They'll speak to her very fast, very quickly in Korean, and when she goes to tell them, in very broken Korean, that she is not Korean, she's Australian, then they kind of look at her and stare at her. Some even look a little frustrated, like, "Are you lying to me?" Instead of getting upset, you should ask someone, go ahead and be curious. Like, "Really? Oh, I didn't know." And if you're ready and willing to learn more about where people come from and how they came to be, I think that's going to help you become more accepting of different cultures, and it helps other people to not be afraid to talk about where they're from. Where is home for you? Home is wherever I feel home is. home is wherever my family is. Home is wherever I feel like I have a piece of comfort. So this has been an incredibly long video, but thank you for watching it, and I hope that if there are any of you other TCKs out there, you can try answering some of these questions, see how long it takes you, how much you have to say. But yeah, I hope to do more videos about third culture kids and my own personal experiences. They're not going to be this long. I really hope they're not. I'm going to do my best to cut them down. If you like these videos, please let me know. Comment. If you have anything to say about what I've talked about here, comment. If there's something that I said that made you think or made you go, comment. And I will see you guys again sometime soon. Bye.